continuing where we left off, we're going to look at exactly what is an argument and how can I make it effective. Because we said that when you make an argument persuasive enough and passionate enough and put the weight behind what you're saying and understanding what your opponent is saying or will say or how they're going to defend it and why they're going to, and really show that you as a person have a good moral character and a ground to speak for your side or position, we have to, before we get there, figure out how do we construct an argument to have that impact, to have that effect. And so an argument in general is made up of a bunch of components, multiple components, and they have to go in a specific order. And there are some that don't fit the order, but they're very important to have. So an effective argument is made up of a lot of things. First off, looking at it, we need a claim. Now, a claim is just the main argument that you're making. It is what you're trying to prove or the statement that you have said. Now, there is no evidence so far with a claim. You're just making a bold statement. Now, a claim needs to have grounds. Grounds is just a fancy word for evidence, for data, for facts, statistics, etc., and its job is to back up or support the claim. Okay? So these two components go hand in hand. You can't have an effective argument, or just an argument in general, if you make a claim. And you can't have an argument if you just have facts. You need both of them together. And you connect those with a warrant. Okay? It is either implied or it's stated explicitly. This is just an assumption, you can say. So if I claim this and I back it up with this data, I'm assuming that they're connected or they're correlated in some way, shape, or form. And that assumption is my warrant. That clear connection or not so clear connection between the two. And the warrant needs to be obvious. And it needs to be clear. I can't just make the claim that, Back to the Future 2 is the best movie ever. And then you ask, okay, well, how are you going to defend that? And I say, well, Endgame was terrible. That doesn't help me. That doesn't prove that Back to the Future 2 is the greatest movie ever. Because my grounds or my evidence doesn't support or it doesn't connect with what I'm trying to claim or the statement I'm making. So you need a warrant right there. So I could say, Back to the Future 2 was a great example of how a movie can do time traveling well. And there hasn't really been any modern adaptation to do it justice. And I back that up by proving that Endgame was a terrible example of going back in time and pretty much trying to redo the formula and do it better, but they only made it more worse and they just muddied the water. And there was a lot of holes in the plot that fans have been trying to patch up, but they just did a terrible job. Right there, I made a better connection between the two. So it is very important that we distinguish that. To make it even clearer, you can say, I'm claiming that there's a dog outside my door. And my evidence is that I hear barking. And so the warrant or the connection is most dogs bark. So, in theory, I can safely assume that those two are connected. I hear a barking outside. I'm claiming there's a dog outside my door. And so I've connected those. Then we have a rebuttal. Rebuttal is, think of it from the perspective of the other person. If someone is hearing your argument, your claim, your grounds, your warrant, and they refute it, or they rebuttal and they argue against what you have to say. And so it's very important to have a rebuttal, to anticipate rebuttals. That's where blocks come in. A block is a debate strategy where you anticipate what they're going to say or how they're going to rebuttal against your claim and grounds and warrant, and you anticipate another response on top of that. So that is where the backing comes in. This refers to any additional support to your warrant. Because a lot of times your warrant isn't clear. It's just assumed. So you need a specific example that justifies your assumption or the connection from your claim to the grounds. All right? So I heard howling outside my door. Dogs howl, so that only adds more evidence and it clearly backs up the fact that there is a dog outside my door. So it is very important that you have backing. So the claim is said first, and it is connected to your data, your statistics, your grounds, okay? That yellow line that connects them, that's the warrant. Okay, there has to be a clear connection between the two, or else you just have a random claim and you have some random data. And people will forget about the warrant all the time. When you do that social media activity that I had you do, you were trying to identify claims and grounds. What are they trying to prove? Well, they're claiming that if the government puts regulations on guns, then it will lead to all of our rights being taken away. And it's like, okay, I understand how you're coming to that conclusion, but let me rebuttal and tell you that you're wrong. So that is what that drill helped you do. It's identify the connection between someone's claim and data to back it up. Then the backing here is just right underneath the claim. It's extra data, it's extra information to help out your argument, and is very, very necessary and crucial in debate that you have backing. And then the rebuttal is looking, kind of fitting up in here and trying to, disclaim or discredit what you're trying to say. Your backing, as you can see, rebuttal and backing are kind of mushed together because that's what you're doing. Your backing is anticipating what they're going to say, and you're going to try and defend your claim, your warrant, and your grounds from what other people may have to argue against whatever it is that you're standing up for. So, now that we've said that and we've done this, and if I'm going fast and you're taking notes and you're like, hold on, that's okay. That's why this is a video. You can rewind it, you can pause it, do whatever you need, watch this as many times as possible. But let's go through an example to help you out, okay? Here's a hot take. My claim is that video games do not cause violence in children. This is just a claim. There is no evidence so far to back that up. But I need to have some evidence. So I'm going to have some grounds here. According to US Today, August 2019, psychological studies purporting to show a connection between violent video games and harmful effects on children, quote unquote, do not prove that such exposure causes minors to act aggressively, the court said in a 7-2 decision in 2011. So we can see here that I made a claim that video games do not cause violence in children. I need to prove that. So I brought up this article from US Today where psychological studies have shown that there is no connection between the two. So I have justified and connected these two. So I don't have a warrant, so to say, that's clear. It's just implied. It's assumed that my data has backed up my claim. So there is no connection is what my warrant is trying to claim here. There is no connection between violence and video games when it comes to children. Backing. So this is even more data to prove my point. So the American Psychological Association, APA, Media Psychology and Technology Division tried to make this clear in 2017. Scant evidence means very, very little, minute, little to none has emerged that makes any casual or coercional connection between playing violent video games and actually committing violent actions. So this is even more data proving my previous ground or my previous data saying, so if they attacked my USA data, then I just back it up, hence why it's called backing, back up my claim with even more data. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the bread and butter of debate. And that's all there is to it. So you'll be given a specific topic or a specific event. So for instance, in Lincoln Douglas debate right now, they're arguing, and we'll look at this tomorrow as we kind of wrap up this week. Tomorrow, the LD topic is discussing whether or not standardized tests, so those tests that you have to take at the end of the year, so freshmen, at the end of your freshman year in fourth quarter, probably in English, math, science, and maybe history, you'll have to take an exam that the state mandates us teachers give to you students. So you'll have 2 hours, maybe 3-4 times over a course of a week, where you have to take exams, and they basically determine how much you're learning and how, effective you are in specific areas, how smart you are, essentially, for lack of better terms. So LD, or Lincoln Douglas debate, is arguing that one side is saying we should not consider those tests whatsoever when determining if kids should go to college. And the other side is saying, no, we should look at those scores and take that into consideration. And so you just build cases which are just 3 fully formed claim, ground, warrant, backing. Just 3 versions of those with a little bit more ground and a little bit more backing, because all of this together, the claim, the ground, the warrant, the backing, that is called a contention. So a contention is a collection of one thoroughly written argument or multiple arguments that prove one point. And so that is, like we said, debate in a nutshell. So for homework or your assignment today, what I want you to do is create your own argument using all the aspects of this Tolman model of argumentation. That is what we just did. So the claim, grounds, warrant, backing. I want you to have those 4, okay? Because what you're going to do is create a Google Doc and share it with me once you are finished. So create a Google Doc, create your own argument, make a claim, back it up with some grounds or evidence. Have a warrant if it's not already obvious, and then back it up with even more data, okay, to prove your claim. Then stop right there, share the document with me. Because what I'm going to do then is copy and paste someone else's argument to your paper, and you are to create a rebuttal, still using all the aspects of an argument, because a rebuttal is just that. So, once again, just to revisit it, open a Google Doc, create your own argument, make a claim, back it up with data, grounds, and if the warrant needs to be said, say it. If it's obvious or it's assuming it, then you're fine. Look at my example for reference. And then supply backing or more data to prove your point or your claim. Then share that document with me. I will copy and paste your argument to someone else's paper and vice versa, someone else's to yours. And you will then refute or rebuttal their argument by making a counter claim, by supporting counter data or grounds, and then supporting that argument or rebuttal with even more backing. Okay? So once again, if you have any questions, comments, etc., shoot me an email. I do have meetings again all day, and so I try and get back and to you as soon as possible, but sometimes they won't let us on our computers, or there's someone right behind us looking at us at every minute, so it's very difficult for me to respond right away. But by all means, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you guys, and have a great evening.